While you are passing on a two-lane road. A. Make sure there is enough space from oncoming vehicles and then accelerate above the speed limit to pass. B. Make sure there is enough space from oncoming vehicles and enough space for you to return to your lane after passing the vehicle in front of you. C. Oncoming vehicles will need to stop and yield to you. D. The cars in your lane must stop until you have safely returned. While you are passing on a two-lane road. B. Make sure there is enough space from oncoming vehicles and enough space for you to return to your lane after passing the vehicle in front of you. Passing other vehicles on a two-lane road with traffic that moves in the opposite directions can be a dangerous maneuver. Two of the most important things you'll need when passing on a two-lane road are enough distance for any oncoming traffic, safe space to return to your lane after making the pass. Always stop before crossing railroad tracks when A. There are vehicles behind you. B. The gate is up. C. There is not enough room on the other side for you to clear the tracks. D. There is no traffic on the other side of the tracks. Always stop before crossing railroad tracks when C. There is not enough room on the other side for you to clear the tracks. Sometimes, you'll encounter railroad crossings that are placed near other intersections controlled by stop signs or traffic lights. In some cases, you may find that traffic starts to get backed up at the intersection near the railroad tracks. If you are waiting to cross the tracks to pull up to the next intersection, it is important that you wait until there is room for your vehicle on the other side before you do so. On three-lane freeways, it is best to travel in the A. The center lane. B. The left lane. C. The right lane. D. Any lane. On three-lane freeways, it is best to travel in the A. Center lane. If you are driving on a freeway with 3 or more lanes, it is best to travel in the center lane if you are driving with the flow of traffic and do not need to exit soon. The left lane should be used for passing. If you need to pass a vehicle in front of you, change lanes into the left lane, complete the pass, and change lanes back into the center lane. The right lane should be used by slower traffic, and for entering and exiting the highway. If you are traveling at a speed slower than the flow of traffic, you should drive in the right lane. Flashing red lights at a railroad crossing mean A. There is maintenance on the tracks. B. Slow down and watch out for oncoming trains. C. Stop and continue after yielding the right-of-way. D. Stop and do not continue until the lights finish flashing. Flashing red lights at a railroad crossing mean D. Stop and do not continue until the lights finish flashing. At a railroad crossing controlled by gates and signal lights, a flashing red light means that a train is approaching. When the lights start flashing, a gate may be lowered as well. The red lights will continue flashing until the train, or trains, has passed and it is safe to proceed. When you approach a railroad crossing with flashing signal lights, stop at the limit line or far enough away from the gates. When you approach an intersection with a green traffic light, you should A. Come to a complete stop and wait for the light to change. B. Slow down and continue through the intersection. C. Stop at the limit line before you continue through the intersection. D. Continue driving, but yield to pedestrians or traffic in the intersection. When you approach an intersection with a green traffic light, you should D. Continue driving, but yield to pedestrians or traffic in the intersection. When the traffic light at the intersection is green in your direction, that means you are able to proceed through the intersection if it is clear. If you are continuing straight, you will typically be able to continue through immediately. If you are turning right, be sure to yield to any pedestrians that are crossing the road. If you are turning left without a green arrow, be sure to yield to oncoming traffic and pedestrians. In any scenario, you'll also need to yield to any traffic that is still in the intersection. If you cannot make it all the way through the intersection, you should stop at the limit line until you can. Can you turn left on red? A. No, you can never turn left at a red light. B. Yes, you can always turn left at a red light. C. Yes, if you are turning from a two-way street onto a one-way street. D. Yes, if you are turning from a one-way street onto another one-way street. Can you turn left on red? D. Yes, if you are turning from a one-way street onto another one-way street. You can only turn left at a red light if you are turning from a one-way street onto another one-way street, unless it is prohibited by any traffic signs. If you are going to turn left on red, one-way street to one-way street only, you'll need to yield to any pedestrians, bicycles, and other vehicles first. As your vehicle speed increases, your field of vision A. increases. B. decreases. C. always remains the same. D. none of these. As your vehicle speed increases, your field of vision B. decreases. Your field of vision describes what you can see in front and to the sides of with your direct line of sight and your peripheral vision. As you drive faster, you will be covering a greater distance in a shorter amount of time. When this happens, the sides of your field of vision are more difficult to perceive. Your overall field of vision becomes more narrow. This is one of the reasons that constantly scanning the road ahead and around you is so important. A good defensive driver should A. anticipate the actions of other drivers. B. look straight ahead at all times. C. always drive slower than other vehicles on the road. D. use their brakes at the last minute. A good defensive driver should A. anticipate the actions of other drivers. A major aspect of defensive driving is being able to anticipate the actions of other drivers. That means, defensive drivers will constantly scan the road ahead and around them to predict what the other vehicles may do. This allows them to be better prepared to react and adjust in the event of a potential hazard or risky situation. Some of this comes with driving experience, but it is important to begin practicing the skill from the beginning. If you are riding in a vehicle equipped with a lap belt and also a separate shoulder belt, you are A. not required to use either one. B. able to use whichever one you prefer. C. required to only use the lap belt. D. required to use both. If you are riding in a vehicle equipped with a lap belt and also a separate shoulder belt, you are D. required to use both. If you are in a vehicle that has a seat belt system with a separate lap belt and shoulder belt, you are required to use both of them at the same time. Only using the lap belt or shoulder belt alone provide you with less protection in the event of a collision. Seat belts are designed to greatly reduce your risk of serious injury or death if you are involved in a crash. What does a double solid white line mean? A. Traffic moves in the same direction and passing or changing lanes over the lines is not permitted. B. Traffic moves in the opposite direction and passing is not permitted. C. Traffic moves in the same direction and passing or changing lanes over the lines is allowed. D. Traffic moves in the opposite direction and passing is allowed. What does a double solid white line mean? A. Traffic moves in the same direction and passing or changing lanes over the lines is not permitted. White lines are used to indicate lanes of traffic moving in the same direction, the edge of the road, and limit lines. A double solid white line is used between two lanes of traffic moving in the same direction when passing or changing lanes by crossing the lines is not allowed. You can think of the double solid white lines as a barrier that cannot be crossed. Great job! Here are some of your next steps to getting your learner's permit or driver's license. Read and study the official driver handbook from your state DMV. Take more free practice tests at puedomanejar.com. Gather all your necessary forms and documents before you visit the DMV office. Before you know it, you'll be driving in your very own car all by yourself. puedomanejar.com. Free DMV practice tests and much more to help you pass your real exams. Visit us today.